All right, what we're working with today is multiplying and dividing fractions. So first of all, with multiplying fractions, it's different than adding and subtracting, because adding and subtracting you have to have a common denominator, and that sometimes can be difficult. But multiplying and dividing only has a couple rules. For multiplying, the first thing you have to know is that you cannot have any mixed numbers. So if you have a number that is 2 1/3, you can't multiply like this. What you need to do is turn it into an improper fraction. And then remember, the way you do that is you multiply, and I get 6, and then I add. And so it's 7/3. All right, once you have all fractions improper or non-improper, you just are going to do top times the top and bottom times the bottom. So you just go straight across. I do the top, and then you do the bottom. All right, and then finally you reduce. All right, so let's look at this first example. So I'm just going to do the top numbers together. 1 times 2 is 2. And then I do my bottom numbers together. 4 times 3 is 12. Now, if you notice, both of those 2 goes into, so I can divide both of them by 2. And so I get 1/6. So a lot of times multiplying is easier than adding or subtracting. I think where people will get stuck is when you have to reduce. All right, again here, 4 times 2 is 8. Over 5 times 3 is 15. And there's nothing to reduce there, so that one's nice. All right, let's go to the examples that are on our other piece of paper so that you can see what happens when you multiply. All right, so here we have a problem. It's an improper or a mixed number, so we need to make it improper. So I'm going to multiply, and that gives me 8. And then I'm going to add, and that gives me 9/4. I don't have to do anything to this 1/5, so I just bring it down. And now top times top, that's 9. Bottom times bottom, that's 20. Nothing goes into 9 and 20 except 1, and really reducing by 1 does nothing, so we're done. All right, number 2, I have 2 mixed numbers, so I have to do both of them. So 3 times 3 is 9, plus 2 gives me 11/3. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 3 gives me 8. Oops, that should not be a 3, that should be a 5. So now, top times top, bottom times bottom. All right, so we have to figure out how many times 15 goes into 88. So if I wrote out my multiples, I don't have a calculator with me. There we go. 75 is as close as I can go without going over. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I need to subtract that to find out that it's 13/15. And nothing goes into 13 and 15, so you're done. So for multiplying fractions, the big thing is to remember it needs to be improper, and then it's top times top, bottom times bottom. All right, let's look at the next one, dividing. So dividing, I have a little saying that I usually try and get kids to say a bunch, and the more I say it, the more you remember it. You may get a little aggravated, but it works. And it just, all it is change the sign to multiply, flip the second fraction. Change the sign to multiply, flip the second fraction. Okay? Once you do that, then what's nice is it's top times the top and bottom times the bottom, and we reduce. So again, change the sign to multiply, flip the second fraction. So now I have a multiplication problem like we were doing earlier. 1 times 3 is 3, and 4 times 2 is 8. There's not a number that goes into both 3 and 8, so we're done. All right, let's look at this next one on the right. Change the sign to multiply, flip the second fraction. 4 times 3 is 12. 5 times 2 is 10. Now, those are both even, so I know 2 goes into them. 12 divided by 2 is 6, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. Now I have an improper, so I need to make it a mixed number. 5 goes into 6 one time, with 1 remaining, and that is your answer. So dividing is the same process as multiplying, you just have that extra step at the beginning. So let's look at a couple others, and then we'll be done. All right, so let's look at this. So before I even do anything, I need to rewrite this. So 4 times 4 is 16, plus 3 is 19. So this I'm going to write as 19 over 4. All right, let's get a different color now. Okay, so the first stays the same. Change the sign to multiply, flip the second fraction. And so what I get is 28, and then I have to do 19 times 8. I don't know that. So that's 72 and 152. Okay, so I don't know what goes into both of those, but I do know that they're both even, so I'm going to divide by 2. So 28 divided by 2 is 14, and then 152 divided by 2, let's do that here. That's going to be 7 and a 6. Okay, well, we got another even number, so we need to divide by 2 again. And so I get 7 over, I need to do 76 divided by 2. Well, that's 3 and 8, so 38. So there's nothing that goes into 7 and 38, so we are good. And that's the answer. All right, so we took up a lot of space, so I'm going to change colors. So over here, I'm going to have to rewrite this because I have 2 improper, or 2 mixed numbers. So I times, and I get 15, and I have to plus. So I get 17 over 5. I times, and I get 3, plus 2, and I get 5. So I've rewritten the problem with improper, with mixed numbers, and now I'm going to do my rule. Change the sign to multiply, flip the second fraction. So top times top, 17 times 3 is 51, and 5 times 5 is 25. Again, we have an improper fraction, but this one's easy to see because if I wrote my multiples of 25, those you guys know they're just quarters. So 25 goes into 51 2 times, with 1 remaining. Okay, so when we're working with multiplying, and we're multiplying no mixed numbers, and then top times top, bottom times bottom. When we're working with fractions, change the sign to multiply, flip the second fractions. I didn't write it here, but this is also no mixed numbers, but we did some of those. So I don't think multiplying and dividing are hard. You have to remember to change the sign and flip the second fraction, and you also have to remember to reduce.